Back, Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. All right, man. AGD, another great day. All right, folks. Magnificent indeed to be with you yet again for another episode of Big King, built with Big King. Yeah. And of course, I'm your host, Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. Thank you for joining me. Another episode of Building with Big King. This is the third season. We launched the first episode, which we consider our pilot for this third season. And this is the second episode officially moving into this third season. And glad to be doing so. Thank you all for helping me to build the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. True indeed. Um, please like, share, subscribe. All three of those things vital to making sure we continue to grow the movement, getting the algorithm moving in our favor and pushing us out to more and more people. So please be sure that you like, share, and subscribe. All three of those actions. Of course, I build the movement through my creative works, my YouTube channel. The library's got close to 750 videos for you. My first musical album, PLR New Paradigm, they're on the YouTube channel as well as the popular streaming platforms, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, etc. This podcast, Building with Big King, the first two seasons are there. Um, and of course, now the third season, as well as links to two books that I have currently on Amazon.com, both in paperback and ebook form, both of which available for you now. The first of which is also one that I've narrated into an audio book, which is available on audible.com. It also happens to be a part of the National Library of Congress as an audio book through the Library of Accessible Media. So please do check that out. Um, Trying to think here. What else? What else do we got? Oh, of course, links to all of my stuff right there on the YouTube channel. Lectures, interviews, and of course, everything I'm doing on rumble.com. Another podcast, Conspiracy Theories or Hidden Truth. Let's talk about it. First season there on rumble.com. The link is right on my YouTube channel to my Rumble channel, as well as my nightly show, Big King's Nightly News Takes, coming to you just about every night, sharing the day's news stories and recent news stories and giving you my take on them, hopefully in a thought-provoking way in which to enable and assist you in forming your own free-thinking, independent perspective on said stories. All right. So thank you, folks. True indeed. We're moving into this new season in a magnificent time, a time of great change. Now, I want you folks to think for a second about all of the things that have happened in the past decade or so, right? The world is much, much different. The scope of what most of us would call reality has changed dramatically, right? Um, the things that we thought were pretty much concrete, that were things we could sort of hang our hat on or be comfortable and rest assured that they were solid notions. Many of them have proven to be um, uncovered lies, right? To put it bluntly, you know, um, they say that eventually lies are all at some point come to the light and are exposed. Much of that has to do with our paradigm, the way the world works. Folks, the bottom line is, again, I always borrow from Dr. Spock, right? Uh, One of the most logical and sensible statements he always made, and I always tend to lean on it myself, is that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And for far too long on this planet, we have actually been living in a paradigm where the energy, the intent, the consent, the blood, sweat, and tears, the hopes and dreams, all of that is yielded from the life of the many has been redirected into a system that is geared to meet the needs of the few, the greedy. I have to use that term. It's pretty accurate. The greedy, um, truly myopic, selfish, self-centered, socially economic elite of this planet, and their cabal of globalists, that many of which are depopulationists. All right. A lot of terms I'm throwing around there, but the bottom line is we now understand things to be a lot different than what we did just a decade or two ago, right? People are no longer willing to just accept whatever spoon-fed answers they're given when they have questions, right? We still do live in a paradigm where most of your multimedia, you know, a lot of your, if not all, of your news personalities, your talking heads, so to speak, many of your entertainment personalities, right? Um, all different kinds of entertainment industry, music, film, etc. Um, many of which are controlled or essentially puppetized, right, by this cabal of socially economic elite. Now, what does all that have to do with where we are now? Well, the incredible thing with where we are now and at this precipice of paradigm shift is that, as I said, more than ever, people are becoming aware of lies that they previously just believed as the way things are, right? As a result of that, and the result of the deteriorating lack of trust in government, in those talking heads, and those news pundits and personalities, and those entertainment celebrities and so forth, that all seem to just be following the agenda of the socially economic elite cabal of globalists. Because people see that far more clearly now, they are far less trusting and far more willing, when seeking the truth regarding any issue or subject matter, far more willing now to actually do the work on their own, the work to seek out the truth by performing their own free thinking, independent research. Think about what I just said, free thinking. They truly are no longer hypnotized, if you want to put that term to it, by an agenda that does not serve them or their families, right? People are no longer lulled to sleep by politicians' promises and other elected leaders whom have been trusted, right, to do what's right for the people and represent the will of the people, but have failed and fallen short in doing so. Now, I say all this to say that this is the world climate that we're in. And amidst that world climate, these very same elite understand that people are waking up at a very rapid pace. Folks, there's a reason why, amidst all these problems in the world, right? All the military conflicts and wars, all of the natural disasters, right? Think of how many natural disasters there have been in the past decade or so, okay? With all the major looming domestic issues, especially here in the US, with all these things going on, did you stop to ask yourselves why in the world are the world's major governments, right, all passing historical, unprecedented censorship laws? Why are they worried about what you're looking at on the internet, what you're learning, what you have access to? Because the paradigm is changing, folks, because the shift is here right now, because they see the writing on the wall. They understand that with more and more people having access to free thinking, independent research and free thinking, independent information, right, that you're going to have more and more people not just believe the lies. And sooner than later, that noose is closing around the neck of this same cabal. That net is tightening up. We're getting closer and closer to the point where people say, you know what? No. We should have a world where the average person's needs are met, right? We shouldn't actually have to be paying every month an electric bill. When we know, we're going to stop the playing around and acting like we don't know things. We know that Nikola Tesla's inventions were successful and could have revolutionized access to power for everyone. We know that it was a purposeful move to go with the design of Thomas Edison and having these electric wires going from pole to house, and all back to a centralized source where they could charge you money. See, things like that are examples of the old paradigm that people are becoming more and more aware of. So with this climate, and with things being the way they are, and with the actual emergence, the actual evolution, the awakening of more and more people into higher consciousness and no longer being so easily fooled, the cabal sees the writing on the wall. They know what's happening. Heck, if you looked into the measures they've gone through over the past 3 to 4 decades, let alone the immense forward planning that they've done in 50 to 100-year increments throughout the centuries, let alone that, but just what they've done in the past 20 to 30 years, folks, they are desperate to stop the awakening of the masses. And anyone who takes just a moment to analyze that can see it clearly. Their efforts are not even hidden or veiled. Right? You have some representatives of this same socially economic elite class of globalists who come right out and say they want the government to completely take over social media. All governments. They just come right out and say it. Right? Because they see what's happening and they're actually quite fearful of it. And it is in that fearful scope or that fearful mentality that we have to be aware of what measures they have long since decided that they're willing to take. Right? Now, I know it took me a little while, folks, but I needed you to understand the world climate of where we're at right now. Because we got some things on the horizon that are coming up really soon. Like, for example, here's a wild card. This Disclosure Day movie, okay? Um, there are some people have got some hopes that it's really that, a very clear effort at disclosure. But many of us are cautiously, cautiously, um, and with a certain air of skepticism, viewing it as a likely psyop mission, right? Well, what does that mean, Big King? It's sort of a CIA-ish term, right? Referring, referring to these psychological operations that are executed often on masses of people, right? And what's happening now, if you pay attention and if you take into the scope of what things like, just take, for example, the movies that have come out. How many dystopian reality, right? Future dystopian reality, picturing movies or displaying movies have we seen come out? Quite a few, right? How many apocalyptic movies have we seen come out in the past decade or so, right? How many movies have we seen where they plant that idea, that seed in your mind of some form of an alien invasion? Now, with Disclosure Day, here's a movie coming out that, especially with the names associated with it, if I'm not mistaken, Steven Spielberg, right? Um, I could be wrong. Maybe it's one of the other. I know there's a major director here. Um, and all the overall hype that the movie's getting, you can bet that it's viewed as an opportunity, a very clear opportunity to execute a psyop if that is in the agenda. What we really need to know and understand is that it was admitted by members of this cabal, one in particular on his deathbed, which folks, we wonder why these confessions happen on folks' deathbed, because, many of them are sworn to secrecy and know that the penalty could be as severe as death. Okay? So yeah, they're going to wait until they're dying or have long since retired and things of that nature. But yeah, that's going to be the nature of it. And if you think about it, it only makes sense. But anyway, Dr. Greer talks about this. Dr. Stephen Greer, the leader and pretty much founder and spearhead of the true disclosure movement. And I've been following his work for, well over 25 years. Excellent, incredible work in the field of ufology, if you want to call it that. But actually, that's not an expansive enough term to encompass his work. Um, so I do recommend you all to check out Dr. Stephen Greer and his work. But he talks about this individual, I think it was Von Braun, Werner von Braun. I don't know, it was one of them. Who on his deathbed admitted that, listen, this cabal is willing to go through such lengths to convince. Now, understand that with this cabal of globalists, you're talking about shadow government elements that exist within the major governments around the world. Folks, that's quit with the, oh, that couldn't be, that's just conspiracy theory. Really, you're still hollering that these days, the things that we found out. The things that have been uncovered these days, are you really still just dismissing things as conspiracy theories? I know you're smarter than that. But at any rate, yeah, these shadow government elements are all around the world. And we're talking about them in cahoots with these major corporate elements. I'm talking about the super powerful trillion, multi-trillion dollar corporations and things of that nature, right? Um, these folks have been involved in programs to retro engineer downed or crashed spacecraft or UFOs or UAPs, whatever you want to label them, for well over 70 years, and have reaped from that and retro engineered and developed incredible technologies based on what they've discovered and had access to. Access did not has not only has access been not given to the rest of the world, but existence of this has been hidden to such great lengths as it includes some horrible and despicable actions up to and including the unaliving of people, right? In order to keep this all secret. I say that to say, as the walls sort of start to crumble down on all of that, these folks are feeling like, the proverbial rat trapped in a corner, ready to scratch and claw its way out and desperate to do so in any measure. Because of that, then things like these last contingency plans are potentially on the table, potentially. And this one contingency plan, which seems to be their major contingency plan, if things sort of the ish hits the wall, so to speak, um, that they're going to convince the world that there is in fact a alien invasion taking place on the planet. Now, you might say to yourself, well, how in the world are they going to do that? Well, first of all, think about what I just said to you a moment ago. They've been retro engineering these craft and developing technologies based off of what they've discovered for well over 70 years, not 7 or 10 years, 70 years, folks, 7 decades. At this point, they've got their own fleet. You understand? So, yeah, they can very much put, not to mention a host of other technologies involving imagery and illusionary, all sorts of things that they could use, right? Um, Look at what's being done with holograms just in concerts, right? So imagine with next level or next generation holographic technology could do. So if they want to try and make that attempt, they can make the attempt. Here's where the important thing comes in. The important thing comes in how you react to it. Huh? That's what they're really trying to steer. They want to push humanity into a state of panic. Think about 9/11 times 100. Okay? They want that to be the state of panic around the world. And in such a state, after creating the problem, of course, they step in with the solution. Come with us. It's all right. Allow us just to take control, complete control, martial law all around the world. We're going to have this uh, uh, uni government, so to speak, where this one government just rules over all of the world, and we'll make sure you're kept safe and we'll protect you from the alien threat, right? So what do they do to build that up? Because they need you to believe that. Not only to believe it just a little bit, they need you to vehemently believe it, to have emotion behind it. They want you to see it coming, and then when it comes, they need you to panic and react just the way they want you to. And then come with us to this bus right over here that we got waiting for you. Conspiracy theory, huh? Crazy thoughts, huh? Do the free thinking, independent research. First of all, you need to understand the illogic, the illogical reality behind the whole alien takeover thing. First of all, folks, the kind of technology that we're talking about that these civilizations would possess to be able to just come here at will, essentially, sometimes from incredibly far distances, like I mean, like literally light years away, and in some instances interdimensionally, right? So the technology that we're talking about that these beings would possess, if they really had nefarious plots on the earth, right? They could have been long executed, right? And there's actually evidence that something like that took place early on in this planet's history. If at least if you go by the archaeological evidence left by early human beings. So if anything, we're already way past that phase. Okay, that's the reality of it. But the reality of it is that, folks, we manifest all of this constantly. We're feeding every human being walking on this planet is constantly transmitting information into the quantum field. It is our issues in our subconscious that we're broadcasting up to the quantum field or into the quantum field most frequently. Therein lies our fears. Many of those fears do center around things like alien invasions and the alien monster, right? So, and then the demons that are now demon. You see how demonology is now being linked into all of it? If you didn't know, that's what the latest agenda is. Now they're now merging demonology with all of this. Um, and all of it is centered around the fear of human beings to get us to continue to transmit out into the quantum field all of these fears that we have it reverberate back as our reality. So yes, they want you to be fearful of this first so that you can make it a potential reality for them to even act on. That's why they do things like, influence elements of Hollywood, uh, uh, and other ways in which they get TV, other ways, not just movies, any mass media way that they can reach the masses with their agendas and the plots that support it. They need you to be fearful of an alien threat, right? Is the bottom line. So, with the movie not having been out yet, I don't know. I could be completely wrong. The movie may take um, a completely different tone than what I think it may, right? But know that regardless of what the movie portrays or does not portray, that the reality is that just as we have, and the universe is always seeking balance. Balance is very important in the universe. And know that the galaxy is not just like the Wild Wild West. There is some order, some measure of order, right, in the galaxy. Um, there is what you might call some semblance of cooperative governing amongst the higher evolved species, right? And that's what the whole, I talked about it in my videos before, the whole, astrological wheel and talking about us making our journey around the great central sun, which just refers to our solar system's orbit around the center of the galaxy, right? Going through these different houses, which refers to us moving through these different sections or areas of the galaxy, all of which have these different characteristics, which is just representative of the different energies that we encounter in each of these different areas. All of it ties together, right? So understand that there is a system in place. It's not just lawlessness. It's not just like the movies make it seem you're just going to go out and, it's not Starship Troopers out there, right? Um, there is a semblance of order. And just as our civilizations appear to have been impacted and swayed, uh, maybe even manipulated and misled by some nefarious higher intelligences, so to speak, that may be of non-terrestrial origin or even non-dimensional origin, um, or other dimensional origin, should I say. Even though those nefarious entities and beings, like the archons that are described by the early Gnostics, though we may have been impacted by those beings, know that we're impacted by beneficent beings and higher intelligences as well. The balance is there, folks, right? Don't feel that, like, darkness is just looming. There's nothing dark just looming. This all comes down to what we choose, how we choose to change the paradigm, how we choose to evolve out of the programming that we have been indoctrinated with, layer upon layer upon layer throughout our lives, right? Generation after generation after generation, century after century after century, we have been indoctrinated into this paradigm. And as we escape it and all of the trappings of it and start to treat each other differently and evolve into a higher consciousness that evolves us to organize, set up, and implement a new paradigm, right? New governments that are actually representative of the masses of the people, right? New social structures that actually support the development and the flourishing of the people, right? New uh, 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 standards where the essential needs of survival are not made elusive for people, but are made within the grasp of everyone. It is that paradigm that the socially economic elite fear giving way to. It is that they're willing to go to the most extreme measures in which to prevent, right, up to and including this false flag, you know, alien attack or false flag, alien takeover agenda, all of it um, geared toward avoiding the inevitable and what has now become the imminent, a new paradigm, not rooted in the misery, pain, and hate and the ruthless survival mentality that we have been taught must prevail in order to survive and thrive and to be wealthy and rich and powerful, right? Not in that, but in a paradigm where we all have an equal opportunity to flourish and to truly begin to thrive as a species, as a real and true civilization, huh? Where people can actually grow into, where children can grow up being taught and flourishing and becoming all that they truly can be in a scholastic environment that fosters the individuality and the talents of each child, the abilities of each child, the independent, the individual and unique perspectives and learning tendencies of each child, so that they can foster, flourish and be fostered to grow into the best person that they can be and offer to the collective the best of themselves, right? So that they can all and we can all live our best lives. That's what it's all about. That's what the socially economic elite cabal of depopulationists and globalists are struggling vehemently to avoid, desperately to avoid, right? That's what the reason why they would be actually willing to go through with desperate measures like attempting this false flag narrative, right? Um, and other measures that they have. All of them geared toward avoiding this new paradigm that we are cementing in right now. Right now, we're doing this on the planet, and they know it. So that's why they're desperate to get you as fearful as possible. And I just look at this new up and coming movie, this Disclosure Day, with a watchful eye. You know, will it be an attempt to get people? Will they use sprinkles of the truth? Sprinkles, mind you, of the truth, uh, in order to highlight a false narrative, right? A narrative that ET is coming to get you, right? That you have to rely on them for protection and give them total control so they can protect you effectively, right? You know the like I said, the same playbook from 9/11 times 100, right, or more is what they would seek to accomplish, right, with such a false flag narrative. So I'm wondering, what will this Disclosure Day movie be? Now, no doubt there will be a good deal of truth in it, regardless of whether there's a false narrative or not. Remember, they use um, sprinkles of the truth to make the false narrative that much more believable. So they'll give you plenty of the truth, but they're not going to give you all the truth, likely. We'll see. Hopefully, I'll be pleasantly surprised. We'll see. But they'll give you some sprinkles of the truth, just enough that right alongside the false narrative, it's effective in making you fearful, right? And getting your mind where they want it to be as a prelude to this false flag attempt that they may be planning uh, uh, to try and pull off. Folks, the biggest way that we could make it a complete failure was for them to do such a thing and for the masses to not react in panic in the way that they would prescribe and hope for. For everybody to not just automatically say, "Oh, go to the bus, give up all your rights, you know, do whatever you have to do to protect us. Please protect us, protect us." If everybody didn't do that and really kind of poo-pooed the whole thing and waved it off and didn't show that kind of panic and fear, that would stop their planning in its tracks. That would be a game changer. That would turn their whole agenda on its ear, so to speak. Um, because again, much of their planning is always based around your fear and your fear level associated with a certain thing. They feed you the thing to be afraid of, and then they come right behind it with solutions. Their solutions geared toward their benefit. Hmm? You know, most people think of the Patriot Act as a law that we passed, that we just had to pass so that we could stop these terrorists. That's what most people generally think of, you know, when they think of the Patriot Act. They don't think of it being an entire package, a grouping of laws, many of which aimed at and very explicitly stripping away the very freedoms that most of us point to our loved ones of the past as fighting and dying for. Oh, how many of them must be rolling over in their graves, so to speak, as they look at what's happening, as we're essentially giving our freedom away. The freedom that they fought for, remember? Remember that? Did that really mean anything to anyone? And if so, why are we so willing to just give it away? Because we're afraid? Folks, dare I say, dare I say that we can't let fear rule us. We have to continue to evolve. We have to continue to do everything that we can and must in order to surge powerfully forward in a new high vibrational frequency paradigm, one that exhibits, that exudes peace, love, respect. We got a long way to go, folks, but we can get there if we work together. We can get there. We just have to work together and cementing in and forging this new high vibrational frequency paradigm, one that I like to say exhibits, exudes peace, love, respect. Folks, I thank you for joining me yet again for another episode of Building with Big King. In the upcoming weeks, we're going to be becoming more and more interactive, right, as we build and grow this forum back to what it was growing to prior or previously. And we're going to be expanding and continuing to build and make sure that we provide the foundation, brick by brick, for this new high vibrational frequency paradigm, one that we like to say exhibits, exudes peace, love, respect. I thank you all. I love you all. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Very important to getting this algorithm moving in our favor and pushing us out to more and more folks. So please do like, share, and subscribe. Please, all my creative works, lectures, interviews, podcasts, books on Amazon, everything all geared toward growing the worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Surging powerfully forward in that endeavor. I thank you all. I love you all. Please, again, like, share, subscribe, and everyone, please support the worldwide movement in whatever way in which you can and you see fit. Everything truly geared to bringing about change, right? And steering us forward in this new high vibrational frequency paradigm. Again, one that I like to say exhibits, exudes peace, love, respect. Another beautiful day. As a gentle breeze sways the treetops in a blue, beautiful sky. Sunlight still beaming across. What a beautiful day. I'm grateful for it. I thank you all. I love you all. This has been another episode of Building with Big King. I love you all. I thank you all. Big King Sadiq, I'm out.